Welcome to Next in Queue, the podcast for contact center and customer experience professionals. Next in Queue is brought to you by Happy 2 Vision. Eliminate blind spots and see right through every conversation with Happy 2 Vision. Learn more at ajppitu.com. Now, here's your host, Rob Dwyer.
Thanks again for joining another episode of Next in Queue. Today, I am joined by an international man of mystery, Marcos Tatijewski. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello, Rob. Thank you for the introduction. Yes, I used to say that when police find me, I must move. So I'm moving a
lot. So let's talk about first things first. Where are you from? And then let's maybe talk a little bit about your family lineage as well, because when I say international man of mystery, I really do mean that.
Okay. Well, I'm Brazilian. I'm from São Paulo. São Paulo, as many people know, is the biggest city. It's not a capital of Brazil, but it's the most important city in Brazil. It's almost 20 million people living in São Paulo now. And I'm originally from São Paulo, but I traveled a lot. I lived in the US, in Colorado. I lived in Barcelona. I lived in Buenos Aires, and now I'm living in Paraguay, in Asunción, that is the capital of Paraguay, a small country in the heart of South America. My grandparents are all Russian. Russian, Ukrainian, you know, when they get out from where they're born, there was no Russia, Ukraine, there no borders at the time. But my father was French and my mother Brazilian, and now I'm living in Paraguay. My wife is Paraguayan, so it's a mix.
Yeah, it's definitely quite the mix. So I really want to, as I do with most of my guests, I like to go a little bit back in time, and I like to find out kind of how you got into this business. And you are the only person I have ever met who worked at Club Med. So okay. Tell me about Club Med.
Well, and I worked at Club Med at a different time when Club Med was still owned by the original family, the founders of Club Med, the Trigano family. Trigano, it's a French family. They founded Club Med after the war. It's a very interesting. I think it's a very interesting story because Club Med was something that the Belgian government asked to a sports hero. There was a Olympic champion in water polo, a Jewish Olympic champion from Belgium, to do something with the Jewish that came back from the Nazi concentration camps and cannot adjust. So he found a partner, Mr. Trigano, that used to sell old tents and war stuff, and they found the most cheap place to rent in Europe was Palma de Mallorca. Now Palma de Mallorca, it's a very, very expensive place. It's just beside Ibiza, and they rented a space and they started like a camp. It was like a camp with, you know, the fire, guitar, some friends. And the first edition was so successfully that people asked, next summer, can I bring my friends? So they started the business 70 years ago. I worked for Club Med when I was 19, 20 years old. It was, well, we always say that our time was the best time, but actually our time was still a time where Club Med was really customer-centered, and the people that works in Club Med is, they call it GO, Gentile Organizers in French. The spirit of CX, the spirit of having the customer in the center of the action and in the center of the decisions was something that I learned in Club Med. It was a time that we had no weekends or free time, or we worked 28 hours a day, and if you are not happy, you must be smiling. If you can go to your bedroom if you are not good, and they'll put somebody in your place, but you must do the things well done. Well, that was my first. I used to say it was my CX university. I learned most of what I know about customers in Club Med, because you not only work in your specialty. I was a squash teacher, a sports teacher, but it was only 4 hours of my day, and the rest of the day I was having breakfast, lunch, and dinner with the guests, doing shows. And because of my my good Portuguese, Spanish, and French, I became what we call the microphone in Club Med, the guy who presents everything. So I was always presenting things, the games, shows, and everything, and it gave me a very different approach about customers. Every customer, 600 people every week knew me by my name, and salute me and say their problems, and my fridge is not working, my shower is not working. So we have always constant contact with customers, the real voice of customer. And I learned something in Club Med. You cannot live like, oh, okay, you have a problem with your fridge. It's not my problem. I'm a squash teacher. No, it's your problem. If you heard it from the customer, if you heard it from the guest, it's your problem. From the beginning to end. Now we call it close the loop.
Right.
But, closing the loop was something I learned when I was 20 years old. And I think it was the beginning of my career in CX, my formal career in CX. And I worked for Club Med for almost 5 years. And it's incredible because living in Paraguay, I worked in Club Med in Brazil, and living in Paraguay, 30 years later, I mean, last year, 2 ex-guests from Club Med, from my time in Club Med 30 years ago, recognized me in business meetings. One of them is a very important businessman in Paraguay. We are in the middle of a very important business meeting, and he stopped the meeting and said, "You are Kiko," because people know me, like my nickname is Kiko. "You are Kiko. You are Kiko from Club Med." And all the other guys in the meeting, like, what is happening? "I remember you. I remember you was in Club Med. I remember you." So the interesting thing is that guests still remember us 30 years ago later. And I have a bunch of friends that worked with me, and this experience is not only me, all the ex-GOs, all the people that worked at Club Med 30 years ago with me, still meet people in the streets, in meetings, and they are recognized, and people remember the experience for more than 30 years. It's amazing.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is amazing. The way that people really, I think we take for granted how people remember experiences and the impression we can make on people based on our interactions with them. And that really just hits the nail on the head.
And I learned a lot of things at Club Med, but one thing I remember is one of my bosses telling me, well, a guy works 51 weeks in 1 year to save money to came here for 1 week. He can sleep until 11 a.m., but no, he will wake up at 7 a.m. to have breakfast, to be ready to the squash class at 8 a.m. So you must be ready to teach the class at 8 a.m. because the guy is choosing to be with you instead of sleeping his occasions.
Yeah.
So you cannot fail. You cannot have any mistakes in this week for this guy. It was not a culture of not doing mistakes, but it was a culture of trying it at the most. I mean, we always try it to really give the best experience possible. And another thing that is very interesting in Club Med culture that I think it's good to talk about it is they get your best, what you do best, and let you do only that. So I was good in teaching squash. I was good doing shows. I like to do shows, comic shows and everything. I was good in speaking languages. So they let me do only that. I was not good with numbers. Okay, I will not work with numbers. There is some guy or some girl that is good with numbers that will be doing only numbers. So this is a very good lesson to me. I mean, get the right people and let them do what they do best.
Yeah, play to their strengths, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so. Were you? You strike me as a pretty outgoing person. Were you like that before Club Med? Were you always like that, or was that something that kind of came out while you were there?
Well, when I am the youngest of four. I have three older sisters, and I was the nerd in my family. Actually, I wanted to study physics, and I was really a nerd when I was a child. And I was very, very ashamed of talking with people and everything. Then I started to read. I love to read. I started to read theater plays, plays from Jean-Paul Sartre and all kind of theatrical plays. It was a heritage from my parents. And I loved theater, and I started to study theater. And obviously, acting was a way of being, to open my mind and my way of being with people. So when I was 15 years old, I was quite a easy talker. I talk with everybody. I have no problem knowing people since I was 15 years old. So when I arrived to Club Med, I was already ready for that.
That's awesome.
It was not my university, it was my master's degree.
So was the master's degree, was the DJ and clown work after the master's degree or during the master's? When did this happen? Tell me about tell me about this.
Before and after. Well, I have a very, very important relation with music. I love music. I love music so much that I started to play bass and classic guitar, and I stopped because I was so bad, and I love music so much. I don't want to do this to music, you know. And my relation, especially with my father, was to music. My father, our chats after dinner was listening to music. He showed me his records. I show my records. He introduced me to like, I remember a black album with a Prisma in the in the cover. I say that's no music. I mean, that's coins and noises, but it's not music. Pink Floyd. So I started. I think the relation with music was very important. And when I was 12 years old, we had a very important sound equipment home, and I said I will be a DJ. I will make some money. And I started to look for parties between my friends and everything where I can play music, where I can be a DJ. So I really did it. Some crazy friends hired me to be a DJ in their parties, 13, 14 years old. And at the same time, I was studying acting. So I started with the clown thing and the comedy thing. That is harder than drama. And everybody knows, I don't know if everybody knows, but drama, it's easier than comedy and clowning, because making people smile, it's very difficult. And I think it helped me a lot with my career, with my business career. So this was now I used to say, I heard a lot of people saying, I worked with CX before CX had this name. And I agree. And I also agree that I trained my soft skills before soft skills was called soft skills.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the hard skills, I think it's easier. I think I think a lot of people think that it's easier to train people in hard skills. But soft skills, you need to be into a culture to learn soft skills, into a soft skills culture. And I was lucky enough to be part of a lot of soft skills cultures in my early life. So when I arrived to the market, the business market, I was already trained in soft skills.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So what did you do when you left Club Med? I mean, was that a transition into what we would think more of the business world, or did you do something else in between?
Yes, in between, well, I fell in love with an Argentinian girl. So I went to Buenos Aires. Buenos Aires is an amazing city. It's amazing. And now Argentina is through a very bad time now, economic and social problems. But Buenos Aires is amazing. And I spent a year in Buenos Aires trying to convince the girl that outside Club Med we can still be a couple. And I worked in some jobs, easy jobs in just to make some money in Buenos Aires. Then I came to Paraguay because my parents came to Paraguay before me.
Okay.
My parents were in the clothing industry. So they came to Paraguay because Paraguay has and still have a lot of it's easy to make an industry here. You have taxes, lower taxes. The people is very easy to train. They are hard workers. So my parents came to Paraguay before me, and when in 1993, I came to Paraguay to visit my parents, and they introduced me to some friends. And one of my father's friend was in a store. It's like a Nordstrom store or something, a big store here in Paraguay, and they needed a marketing manager. I was 23 years old. I never had worked in marketing. But my father said, okay, go and be the marketing manager. And I started working. My first, let's say, business job was marketing manager for a big store here in Paraguay. And I learned by doing. I learned marketing by doing. And that was the beginning of my career here in Paraguay. It was 1993. But the main, I think the main event that really changed my life was in 1994, not 1995, when a friend of mine said, okay, let's open an ISP. Let's put together an ISP. Let's bring internet to Paraguay. I said, okay, let's go. What is internet? And he said, I don't know. So we started the first ISP, the first internet service provider in Paraguay. And it was amazing because I was the marketing and commercial director. So my job was to sell internet for people that didn't know what internet was, and I didn't know too. So it was very funny, but at the same time, I was in a moment of internet, in a moment of the business environment that was very special, because I needed to convince people that you need email. Why I need email? I have my fax machine. You need your domain name. Why do I need my domain name? I have my brand is trademark, so I don't need a domain name. So we started the first internet radio here, the first chat channel here, or the first everything it was a very innovative environment, and it was very funny, and I learned a lot. So it was a game changing for me when we started the internet in Paraguay. It was starting internet in a country, in a whole country. It's a small country.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's 7 million people. It's not a big country, but it was beginning everything from zero. I mean, we had even the government. When we asked for the authorization to have the satellite link, and the guy at the government that we are talking to asked, what are you going to do with that? Well, we want to bring internet to Paraguay. Internet, okay, I'll give you the authorization, but internet is something for people, for lazy people. I mean, for people that have nothing to do. So we said, okay. and it was the beginning of the internet. And now I used to say, when I see a little truck from a little business with the www.domain.something, I say, okay, I was part of that. I was, I was not alone. I am not a hero, but I was there at the beginning, and I think it was important for the country, and it was definitely important for me because I learned a lot.
Yeah, I bet. Wow, what an experience. Speaking of experiences, let's talk about Ferrari.
Okay.
Tell me about 2006 and tell me about that experience.
Okay. Well, do you prefer the short version of the no so
I want
short
the
version?
fun, interesting version.
Okay,
Give me that version.
I'll try to be not so long version. A friend of mine, Argentinian, living in Paraguay, had a bad time working, no place to live. So I said, Diego, please come live with me. I have a big house. My parents were in Uruguay at this time for business for a few years. So I said, okay, I have a big house for me. I'm alone. Come live with me. You can use my computer to work. He was a very good designer. He is a very good designer. Now he's living back in Buenos Aires. And so we became really good friends. And then he was hired from an Argentinian company. He go back to Argentina, then to UK, and from UK to Switzerland. And being in Switzerland, Diego, my Argentinian friend, was in a pub, in a bar, and he heard somebody talking Argentinian, like with the Argentinian accent. So if you are in a place where you heard somebody from your country, okay, it was a guy called Albert. So Albert was an Argentinian guy working in Switzerland, and they became friends. And Albert was the Shell oil manager for the Ferrari Shell brotherhood. You know, Shell and Ferrari are very close, are like brother companies. So a few months later, Albert called Diego, my friend, and asked, Diego, do you know somebody that speaks Portuguese, Spanish, and English that can talk to the media and that knows something about Ferrari and Shell? Well, my first wife was Shell marketing manager in Paraguay. So Diego said,
perfect.
Diego said to Albert, you will not believe, but I know this guy, he lives in Paraguay. So Albert called me and said, okay, we are doing the most important expedition in the history of Ferrari. From Brazil to US, 16 countries, 64 cities, 3 months, 2 Ferraris, and some Fiats and Iveco trucks. So it was huge. And we want you to go. You will be the only one from Latin America. And the budget we have is X. And I was thinking at this time in the telephone, how will I pay that? I don't know. I will sell my kidney. I don't know. I must have this one. And he asked me, is it enough? Then I understood that they will pay me to be at the most important Ferrari expedition of all time. It was called Ferrari Panamerican 20,000. We traveled for 3 months, 16 countries, and we had 2 brand new Ferrari GTB Fiorano, 599 GTB Fiorano. And it was amazing because I was part of something that I used to see in National Geographic, you know, and I was a part of that. And we had some amazing experience, like being in the middle of Peru, in the middle of nowhere, with 2 brand new Ferraris and 4 small Fiats that were the team car, the support team cars. And the children in this city in Peru looked more for the Fiats. They were more interested in the Fiats because the small Fiat idea is the brand's Fiat idea. They were like 4x4, like more off-road than Ferrari.
Yeah.
And for the children of this city, being off-road is more important than being sportive. So it was like children looking for the small Fiats, $10,000 cars, instead of looking the Ferraris. It was an amazing experience. But again, I learned a lot with Ferrari. I learned why Ferrari is Ferrari. I learned why people say, okay, I have this computer. This computer is the Ferrari of computers. It seems like Ferrari is all, you know, Italian style and drinks and parties, and it's not that at all. They are very professional. We had a very, very detailed planning for every day. Everything was planned. Everything was, you have, again, the right people doing the right thing. Our doctor at the expedition was the main doctor for the Olympic Committee, International Olympic Committee. So it's the guy who gave us Band-Aids and aspirins, you know, and was a huge doctor. The leader of the expedition was a guy that traveled 1 million miles with Ferraris. So the level of the guys, the team that was with me was very high. And I learned a lot about how Ferrari built the brand Ferrari. It's not only making a good car, great car, the best car, but how they work the brand and how they take care of the brand. As I said, I was the guy who talked with the media, and I had a coach for during all the expedition. Another person at the team. The only job that this coach had was to talk with me before and after each event, each interview, if anything that I need to say to the media of the some public, I was trained before and I was feedbacked after that. So I cannot say a 599 Ferrari. I cannot, because I was so trained to say 599 GTB Fiorano Ferrari. I mean, saying all the name in this order like this. So they are very professional. It was an amazing, amazing trip, an amazing expedition. But I also learned a lot about building a brand. Why Ferrari is the Ferrari of the cars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that sounds right on the surface like just a really cool experience, but as you talk about it, right, there's an opportunity to learn about how a really, really world famous brand fiercely guards their reputation and how they go about doing that. And then the power of feedback, the power of coaching because I have to imagine by the end of that, your delivery was, I don't even know how many times better than it was at the beginning, but I absolutely know that you were so much more confident and knew exactly what to say as you got further along, that your confidence just built along the way.
Yes, and I understood why. That's very important. Not only I was well trained, but I understood why I must say this way. Like I must say 612 horsepower and not more than 600. It's 612 horsepower. Why? Because the other brand, Lamborghini, has less than 612. It's 606. Right. I don't know. So it's different when you have 612 and 606. Well, that I learned during the expedition, understanding why something happens, why a brand tells you to use these words or to tell something, to say something this way. So they really keep the brand in a high level, and the feedback was very important. So having the feedback every day for 84 days, 64 cities, and 84 days, ending the day with a meeting, half-hour meeting with somebody telling you, okay, you did that right, you did that wrong. It was not like you did that wrong and it's wrong. And I'm teaching you to take care of the brand and to do your job at the highest level you can. So I learned that, and I understood why, as I said, why Ferrari is Ferrari and why the brands, the high-level brands are like they are. I mean, they take care of, a brand must take care of especially the words that people use about this brand are very important. I'm a fan of language. I think language defines what we think or what we do. So, and this experience only confirmed that language is very important. And I learned Italian.
That is just really exciting. It also goes to show a little bit the power of luck and being right, just knowing the right person at the right time and someone else being at the right place at the right time. Like your friend running into someone in Switzerland in a pub
Well,
and overhearing, and they go, "Oh, well, we're looking for this, 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 this." And he's like, "Oh, well, I know a guy."
well, I have a conference I do for free in colleges and high schools, because every guy and every girl I know, especially teenagers and or young people, say you were so lucky. It's luck. Okay. I used to say it's living at high speed is the name of the conference. I used to say, oh, okay, I was lucky, but I was ready when the opportunity came for
Yeah.
me. First, I learned English, I learned Spanish, I had a good Portuguese. I was trained to speak with the media, so it was not only luck. And I gave something to a friend, like a place to live, and I can use my computer to work. And I really didn't think, okay, someday this guy will give me back. No, but when the opportunity came, the guy thought about me, and when the opportunity came, I was with the skills that I needed to get the opportunity. So yes, I'm lucky, but I am lucky to have the opportunity to be trained in soft skills and empathy to when the opportunity passed by me, I was ready to get it.
Yeah, and your generosity led to that. I mean, I think that's important, right? Building skills, because you never know when those skills are going to serve you really
Yeah.
well, and just being generous, because your act of generosity, without that, the whole story doesn't happen.
Yes, if my friend Diego just said, you know, I don't have money, I don't have where to live, and I say, okay, that's a pity. I'm so sorry for you. And I had no, I was out of the most important Ferrari expedition of all time. So
Yeah.
generosity is worthy. I mean, it's not only feeling well, but and if you're not generous, you cannot work in CX business. I mean, experience is
Absolutely.
about generosity, and spirit is CX experience is about wanting the other person to have a good experience. In not only being able to do it, not only having the skills and the tools and the process, but also wanting the other person to have a great experience, an experience that he will remember, or he or she will remember forever. And the pleasure, I think I learned that with acting. I mean, the pleasure you have when people applaud you at the end is not something about ego. It's about, okay, I give them a good moment. And more and more nowadays, I think it's hard to have good moments. I mean, good moments are shorter, and they don't occur at the same frequency of I don't know, 50 years ago. So if you are able to give only good moments to somebody, a moment that people will remember for years or forever, that's CX, that's customer experience management. I mean, the tools will change. Now we talk about, I don't know, VOC or NPS and everything, but this will change. What will not change is the fact that when you are able to give people a good experience, an experience that they will remember as a moment of pleasure in their lives, that's CX.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I love it. So, that was a really fun departure. But what are you doing today? Tell me about what you're doing today, because you're involved in a number of different things.
Yes. Well, actually, my sister, my older sisters always ask the same thing. What do you do? And I used to say, I work with marketing, so it's easier to explain. But now I am a partner at a consulting company called, in Spanish, Ecosistema de Experiencias. It's like something like experience ecosystem. And what I do and what we do here is to help companies getting their customers happier. Yes, we use tools and the usual CX tools like customer journey maps and DOC and metrics and everything. But this is not the main focus. The main focus is really understanding what people want, what people need, and what are the problems of the people. I used to say problem is something that people needed or wanted and didn't get at the right time. So then you have a problem. A problem was, each problem was, sometimes was a need or a want. And understanding that and making my clients understand that their jobs and in any industry is to make people happy or satisfied. So that's what we do. Usually I do it like 70% of my time is consulting, 30% of my time is training.
Okay.
So what I do in my professional side. I'm also the president of the Paraguayan CX Association, something brand new. And it's new because 1 year ago, you didn't have companies hiring CX managers in Paraguay or chief customer officers or anything like that. So like I experienced when we bring internet to Paraguay, I am bringing customer experience management to the country. It's like an evangelist business.
Yeah, it is.
Because I listen, I heard a lot of business people telling me, but the process, but the product, and everybody in CX knows that processes and products and services was the focus for so many time that it's hard to bring the focus back to people. And that's something that it's not new. We just lost it. And I say we, I mean the humankind. We lost it 20, I don't know, no, 20, it's more than 20, 200 years ago. We lost this focus. The artisan, the guy who made the sword, was very focused not at the sword, but at the guy who used the sword. And we lost it with the Industrial Revolution. I think we lost the focus, and now we are getting it back. The focus in what people need, what people want, will make their lives easier and happier. So that's what I do now. It's hard to sell, but when I sell, it's great because you can see how people inside the companies are waiting for that. They are waiting to be back to the customer. They are people. I think people in companies are tired of processes. I love processes. I love products and services, but I think people are tired of having that as their main focus.
Yeah.
The main and not having other person as the main focus. And especially young people, they don't want to have focus in processes and products. They want to have focus in people. And if you can bring it as a new culture or bring this culture back to the companies, I think it's a great job.
Yeah, 100%. Now, so are you only working with companies in Paraguay, or are you branching out into neighboring countries as well?
Well, one of the things, the answer is yes. I'm branching. I'm working with companies in Brazil, in Argentina, in Chile, in Colombia. One of the things I'm working a lot for free, but I mean, working anyway, is trying to destroy the wall between Brazilian Portuguese and all the Hispanic world. We have 300 million people speaking, more than 300 million people speaking Spanish, 200 million people speaking Portuguese in Brazil, but Brazilians don't speak Spanish. So one of my fields of work is connecting, linking, especially CX people from Brazil with CX people from all the Hispanic countries, from Mexico to Argentina, Chile, and all the almost 20 countries, and obviously Spain, because Brazil is like an island. I mean, because they only speak in Portuguese. I remember I never learned Spanish in school in Brazil. I learned English, not Spanish, and we have, I mean, our neighbors are Spanish speakers. So I'm like doing the link between the CX associations, especially Amigos do CX, that it means Friends of CX is the main organization of CX in Brazil, with all the other associations, CX associations in Latin America. Something I like to do. And I'm also teaching in the first CX MBA in Brazil. And it's funny because the college that organized this, the CX MBA in Brazil in Portuguese is from Ireland. I mean, it's from Dublin. Actually, the owners are Brazilian. That's why they started in Brazil, the MBA. So I teach in this MBA, and now we are trying to organize. We are in the last movements to organize the same MBA in Spanish for all it will be the first Spanish MBA specialized in CX in Latin America. We don't know.
Awesome.
Other MBA with the certification of MBA. There is a lot of good programs and workshops, but as an MBA, it will be the first in Spanish.
That's exciting. Well, you're no stranger to firsts, so I'm confident you're going to get that done, because you've clearly done a lot of firsts in your life, and there's more to come, I'm sure.
It's easier to do something when you are the first, because the other people don't know the mistakes.
They have nothing to compare it to.
Yes, when we started internet and people said, okay, it's not working. No, it's like that. You just need to wait for 3 days and it will work, and it's like that all over the world.
It has to reboot, and it takes a while. Just let it reboot for a few days. Well, Marcos, I really appreciate you being so generous with your time. It has been really just exciting to talk to you and learn about all of the really interesting things that you've done. And it's exciting to see what other people are doing all around the world. And I'm really excited to share what you're doing with my audience.
And that's something I learned from CX people. CX people are very generous. I think it's one of the fields of business where we are not afraid to share. I mean, my experience that I learned a lot with a lot of people from all over the world in the CX business, and it's not a field where we are like jealous of knowledge. And I think it's very important. Maybe because of the soft skills you need to have to be in CX, but I think it's the first time where I found a field of business where people are really generous. I mean, people are really open to share knowledge. And I think it's very important for the CX business, for business, and it's very important for a human being. I mean, sharing knowledge is what may save us.
Yes, I absolutely agree. Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge. I really appreciate it.